Hey everyone, Aaron here. Welcome back to the Anime Talk, the show where we say, hey, you have to be fair. If you say one thing bad about one thing, then you have to say one thing bad about something else and also good things about the other thing. We actually I think it was the last episode, so I believe it was the last episode, we talked about live action movies and, how the adaptations of anime movies sometimes are not that good. Typically they are done very well, but most of the time they aren't done well enough. They have this kind of I want to say that they try to be ambitious. They try to go out in the distance to make these live action shows work so well because I think in general a lot of people know that live action anime movies are kind of seen in a negative light. I mean, it's just typically how people perceive it. Anything that you take, something of a great show, like if you take the best animations, the best visuals, the best story, and you recreate it again, it doesn't matter what type of recreation you do, you're always gonna have those people that go, oh man, why'd you even touch what I loved? Why would you even do this? The show is amazing the way it is, and now you're messing with it. Now that's why I'm going to talk about today, if you can't see it from the title already, but today on the Anime Talk, I'm actually going to be focusing on just anime movies. Can anime movies do perfectly well by themselves, or are they similar to live action anime movies where they fall short a lot of times? Because the main concept of an anime movie is the simple fact that it's supposed to be able to be shown in the theater. So maybe we don't get a lot of them per se in America, but in Japan, a lot of anime movies are actually something that's just normal for them. There's a lot of anime that comes out into the movie theaters, and they do very well. They do surprisingly sometimes so well that they come out in limited edition box sets and all this, and it's like, wow, this is just a movie. Holy crap! But we do realize that because it's just a movie, and just because it maybe do well in certain countries and all that, does not mean that it's going to be great. A lot of times anime movies can be hit or miss, but I want to talk about several, and I just kind of want to think I'm going to talk about the consensus of, is it plausible that anime movies are just not that good compared to just a regular anime show? Now, we have the great stuff by Miyazaki. We have stuff like, Spirited Away, which I'm using an image of right now. We have Princess Mononoke. I'm trying. I'm actually trying to think of stuff right off the moment. This is what happens when we do this stuff in the morning. A Wind Rises, you have Howl's Moving Castle, stuff like that. And those are recognized as some of the best anime movies ever made. I mean, this is something that Miyazaki made himself so, I guess, popular that at one time he ended up going with Disney. And I mean, come on, now you have Ghibli Films, and that in itself is awesome. I mean, to be recognized by an American-based company, or more so in this case, recognized by a country that they see your works and they go, wow, your work is so incredible. We want to adapt it into our stuff. Can you work with us and can you make stuff for us? When you have something like that, that means something. I think that shows that, hey, you're making something good. These are examples of great anime movies. I mean, this Miyazaki has millions of movies. That's why I don't want to try to name all of them, because I know The Wind Rises is another one he has. But he has a lot of movies. But let's talk about some other movies and let's kind of just see how are they compared to things. So there's a movie called Jinro, a Wolf Brigade, which is about a kind of militarized group that are fighting a various war against their various things. I'm not going to spoil the movie because it's a pretty short movie. But Jinro was a very dark, mature themed movie, and that was excellent. It despite it being only, I think, an hour and a half, I want to say, it had a lot of story, it had a lot of heart, it had a lot of effort put into making sure you understood what the characters were going through, the kind of creepiness of the setting of what they were fighting, and the dark tones and the mature theme. That is something that is impressive for anything that can do that in a couple, an hour and a half, not even. Now, on the bad spectrum, we'll see. Let's talk about Planets, which is something I reviewed recently, which I consider one of the worst anime movies ever. And by the way, guys and girls, when I said the worst anime movie, I realized it's like, well, that can't be the worst. It probably is not the worst anime movie ever, but it was one of the worst I've seen in a long time. That was a 54-minute film, and the problem with that film was that you did not care about the characters. You never got to really understand the story. The animation was very meh sometimes. It had some good animation here and there, don't get me wrong, so it wasn't completely horrible to look at, but the characters were very all over the place. The voice acting was very hit and miss a lot of times. Honestly, it was just a very, very bad movie. Now, using my anime list, I'm actually going through several movie adaptations of other things too. So here's a good one: Steins Gate, the movie. That's well received, and Steins Gate, the movie, for me was not too bad. I'm not a huge fan of it, but it wasn't bad. Where you have just kind of a separate spectrum of the storyline being told to one another, and that is actually pretty cool. I like when stuff's done that way, but you have to wonder, does everyone like stuff like that? Does everyone want a kind of movie adaptation of something? Do you need to do a movie adaptation of everything? And, I know it's kind of almost like am I losing track of what I'm talking about, because it seems like I'm jumping between the concepts of movie adaptations, It's not that. It's just that all these concepts, all these kind of little things, these little different kind of caveats, they all kind of build into the anime movie industry. Because no matter what, you're making an anime movie series or a movie, based off a series. And that in itself is very hard. It's something that it's always, like I said earlier, it's going to be well received or it's going to be not well received. And that's just because it's just how it is. But more so, can you do it or should you even do it? I mean, like, for example, going back to Steins Gate, the movie I just mentioned, I liked it. I think it was a nice kind of separate story. But did I need it to be done? I don't know if I needed it to be done. I mean, I understand why they did it. Of course, Steins Gate was very popular in Japan. But I did not need it to be done, and I really wasn't a huge diehard fan of it. Another one we could talk about is Anohana, the movie. Anohana, the movie, is actually both a sequel and a retelling of Anohana. And in many ways, it was a great movie because it had some great visuals. You could tell it was really worked on very well. If you wanted to know about characters and if you wanted to see characters outside of the story and how they've been doing a year later, I think it was a year later around that, you can get to see that now via a movie. But I felt that was unnecessary. You didn't need to make this movie. I mean, Anohana was a great series. It ended on a point that was, I think, fitting for the show. I understood fully what happened. You can kind of picture what was going to happen to the characters further on along the line. But then they make a movie which is a recap telling of it, essentially, which I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, honestly, it's not that it was bad, and I don't want to say, it was terrible. I'm not going to say that. But it's a recap of a movie or series that, depending on how you saw the series, you might have seen the whole thing in one shot, and then you're now watching a movie that's just basically retelling the series again. That's unnecessary to me. Stuff like that is kind of weird. Another good example, I think, of a kind of movie series type thing is the Evangelion movies or even the Berserk movie series. These are franchises that took, I think, liberties with the original content and decided, you know what, let's go new places with that. And I mean the Evangelion movies more so, by the way, the new ones like the 1.0, the 2.0, etc. I mean that more so. Not the end of Rebirth and the end, Rebirth and Death, I believe it is. Yeah. So the end of Evangelion and then Rebirth and Death are the original Evangelion movies, but I mean the newer stuff. And those took, again, like I said, liberties with the original content. They went, okay, well, here's the original stuff, let's put it to a new age and let's make some different stuff with it. Same with the Berserk movie, which, that took the older franchise, which was a 90s anime, and decided, let's make it so it looks like a 2000-something anime series. It made it to movies. Now, these are good examples of, okay, this is a good idea because these are older shows. You can use some polish, some touch-ups here and there, and they should be well received because they were so popular back then. And guess what? Lo and behold, both the Evangelion and Berserk were well received nowadays. Berserk still, I think, is a kind of cult following more than anything else. I know people say, oh, Berserk, everyone knows about Berserk. I honestly think not everyone knows about Berserk, but even more so, the people that do like it or know about it, have mixed feelings about it, because I know a lot of people love, the guy's work, but the thing is that the manga series has been going on since I was born, so that means it's going on now with 27 years, I believe, and that's crazy. That's a very odd thing to me that series is still going on, and I understand why. He runs a small studio, he does a lot of the work by himself, but, typically, that is always going to make a series kind of die out because just fans will either go away or kind of lose interest and stuff like that. Because it's not that, I don't want to say everyone has a short attention span, but I do believe to a point people have short attention spans when it comes to a lot of things, especially anime and anything form of medium type thing. But, Berserk and Evangelion both being redone for the new age was a good idea in movies. Why not do that? So, what am I trying to get at? Is there a point to what I'm talking about? I know maybe some of you might be asking that. But the point here is that anime movies, I think, are very different in terms of, compared to live action, of course, but anime movies are very different than a form of medium in itself. Like, you're taking a series or you're taking a show, you're making maybe 26 episodes into 1 hour and a half or maybe 2 hours most, because I've really never seen too long movie wise. But you're taking all this and you're going, you know what? Let's make this a movie. And that's hard, but more so, I think sometimes you can be very successful doing that. You can take a franchise and kind of dumb it down a little bit, or you can take its franchise and rework it and kind of retweak it for a newer age. You can take new works completely and make brilliant things, like, again, Spirited Away and stuff like that. But that's a risk in itself, I think. But I believe wholeheartedly that anime movies are a lot better, of course, than live-action anime movies. I'm just being honest with you guys and girls. But also, I think they are a necessary component to anime. I think you need to make live action, or not live action, excuse me. Wow, I just said live action, right? You need to make anime movies a thing. You know, these things need to exist because it shows, first off, I think, the popularity of a series. Because if you could make a movie franchise out of something, that means that it's worth warning a movie franchise or something. I mean, like, all the stuff I mentioned that's based off of anime shows, those are some of the, you know, most well-known and kind of endured type shows. Like, I mean, despite Berserk not having come out for a long time, besides, you know, Evangelion not seeing the light of day for almost 10 years also, you're having it come out now showing, hey, you know what? The fans wanted this, people wanted this, they showed appreciation, they showed interest. That's something amazing. That's something cool, too. But they are a different spectrum of anime. I think people forget that because they think, oh, well, you know, this should be just as good as my anime series, or this should be good as this. It is very hard. Like I said once before, and I said this, I think, at the live action anime movie stuff, but it is very hard to make a movie. It's something that I know people who have tried to do stuff like that in the past. I'm not going to name people, but I've known some people that have tried to do things like that, and it's just, you know, it's a whole different scenario, it's a whole different setup, it's a whole different mindset, a whole different game, essentially, entirely, that you're taking a thing and making it into a movie. You know, like I said before, 26 episodes into a 2-hour movie. Do you realize how weird that sounds? Because alone 26 episodes, or 12 episodes, or whatever. You know, 12 episodes for, I think it's like 5 hours. 24 around that is what, 10 hours? So you have anything plus that, you're just adding hours to it. That, to be 2 hours, is kind of scary. I mean, like, that is going to remove a lot of what made the series good, or more so, it's going to take out a lot of what the series has worked on so well. But it can be done. We've seen it done before. It's just that it has to be handled a certain way, like anything else. It has to be handled with both appreciation for the series and an understanding that if it's like, for example, Steins Gate the movie, you can't remake that series into a movie. You have to more so go with, let's make an extra episode or kind of separate thing from it. You cannot take a series like, for example, Anohana again. I don't think it was a good idea, you know, recapping Anohana into a movie. I think it was stupid, I'm being honest with you. And this is coming from someone who loves Anohana. But the thing is that I understand why they did it. I understand the popularity of Anohana was something so great that it made people want the movie and desire it. But it was unnecessary. You know, again, you could have made just a kind of sequel just showing what was happening with their day-to-day lives and have simple recaps here and there. But that whole movie was basically recaps. You know, if I was to put, I think it was like an hour and a half, around that, maybe a little longer than that, maybe about 75% of that movie was recaps. And that's a problem. I have an issue with that. But, you know, that's just, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on this. Do you think anime movies are a good thing? Do you have any feelings about them? Do you think they should not be done? Should they be done? I'm curious about what you guys want to say. You can feel free to say whatever you want. That's it for me today, guys and girls. I hope you enjoyed today's anime talk. I will talk to you guys later. Have a blessed day. You know, subscribe, like the comment, like the video, comment the video, whatever. I'll talk to you all later. Bye-bye.